and welcome to another episode of the BigFooty Tigercast. I'm your host, Michaels, and we've got a bit of a different episode today. We're running with 3 guests for the first time, so should be an interesting episode, and no doubt we'll get some pretty good thoughts along the way. And with that, we'll welcome our guest to the show. So first off, I'd like to introduce Tigersfan35. Welcome to you.
Hello.
And next up, we've got ReaperX. Welcome to you.
Thank you. How are you?
Going well, thank you. And finally, we've got EvenExhale. Welcome to you.
Good to be here, Michaels.
Okay, and as we always do, we'll go through everyone one by one and just find out how they became a Richmond supporter. So, Tigers fan, how did you become a Richmond supporter?
Yeah, my story's a bit like Kiwi Tigers from last week. My dad's always gone for Richmond, has very fond memories of the 1980 premiership, and so he's always taught me to go for Richmond. So I think he brought me to a few games in early 2008, and 2009 rocked around. You know, we were having a horrible season, and my godfather tried to get me to go for Collingwood, and I remember we played Melbourne. That was like the only game that I was ever pumped up for. And we managed to beat them after the siren with Jordan McMahon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
What a game.
Even though it was tanking. But, yeah. And
did for us.
Yeah, it was. So after that, never turned back. And I've always gone for Richmond. But my brother is 8 now. So in 2014, when we had a bit of a bad start, he was going for Richmond. And then my godfather came along, took him to Collingwood, Richmond. Collingwood thrashed us, and he's been a Collingwood supporter ever since.
Oh, he's having a good year this year then, isn't he?
Yeah. He's not enjoying it too much.
No, he can sit in the same boat as Adam Treloar.
Well, they do have that. Collingwood do have the better list. So, you know, I mean,
naturally.
Yeah.
But he'd also love to see us win a final as well. So
Yeah.
And EvenExhale, what about you? How did you become a Richmond supporter?
Yeah, so for me it was pretty much, my old man was a Pom, came over when he was 8 years old in the glory days of 1980 when we were winning premierships and whatnot. And one of my first memories for being a young, child, was at actually at a pre-season game. My dad tells me I remember it against Carlton, where we played them in the pouring rain. Apparently we got smashed, but no, I was sitting there as a little 1-year-old with my flag, and Dad actually said to me that 2 old ladies came up to him after the game and said, "We've never seen a child sit there the whole time and actually watch the game without fidgeting or like running around or crying or whatever." So I just sat there throughout the whole game, and I've been a member this is my 20th year now. So the Tiger spirit runs through the whole family. So yeah, my dad is a passionate Tiger man, and he actually, my mum, she was a Collingwood supporter, and he told her that he wouldn't marry her unless she made the switch. So yeah, he's pretty religious with it all. So it's just the same passion that's instilled in me. So yeah,
very good.
That's pretty much it.
And ReaperX, what about yourself? How did you become a Richmond supporter?
okay, so I was an Essendon supporter as a little kid. Just until I was like 5, and then I saw the semi-final between Richmond and Essendon, and it's funny because my favourite animal is a cat, and you would have thought I'd be a Geelong supporter, but for some reason I was just attracted to the yellow and black of the Tiger, and seeing them in that final was just they showed such heart and spirit. And just from then it's just grown. I wasn't massively into it as like a preteen, but I think I started really getting into it again sort of at the end of the Frawley era. And I think Wallace really brought about some hope and didn't quite end well, but just from there it's just grown. So
it was all about the 5-year plan with Wallace.
Yeah, I really think if Wallace today had our list, I think he could do well, honestly. But I just don't think he had the resources. But anyway, that's another topic for another time. But I don't have as much hate for him as I do for maybe a few other people. So yeah.
All right, we'll push on to the autopsy play of the year award. So these are the votes from after round 22 against Fremantle. So the 5 votes went to Jacob Townsend. Dusty got the 4 votes. Kane Lambert got 3 votes. Nankervis got 2, and Sean Grigg got 1. So the updated leaderboard is in 5th place Toby Nankervis on 19 votes. In fourth place, Kane Lambert on 23 votes. Third place, Alex Rance on 38 votes. Second, Trent Cotchin on 40 votes. And in first place, Dusty on 71 votes. Jacob Townsend, I think, thoroughly deserved the 5.
Yeah, definitely.
The other one that probably could have gone a little bit higher was Sean Grigg. It was good to see him in there, but I thought he did a monster amount of work with not much recognition. I think there's a lot of haters of Sean Grigg on the board, but he definitely had a good game, especially having to wear the ruck load as well for part of the game too.
Yeah, he loves getting in the ruck, doesn't he, old Griggy? It's funny.
He's got a pretty good leap on him as well.
Yeah, he does. He does all right.
I feel like that became that meme from the board became a thing. I think Hardwick's gone on there one day and said, "Hang on, Griggs is ruck. Wait, let's actually do this. Let's see what we can pull off here." And I think it's actually worked out pretty well.
It has, although it's only going to take like one knee to the ribs, and he's going to be out for a while. So hopefully we can avoid something like that happening. But
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I think he did a really good job. So, and yeah, once again, wrapped for Townsend to get the 5. I'm sure we'll speak about him shortly in the review, but he was fantastic. We'll move on to the roast and toasts. We'll start off with you, Reaper. You've got a roast for us. What have you got?
Yeah, so I sort of was thinking about which to go with. And I mean, for me, when we first, discussed it, it was the umpiring at Geelong. But I think for me, I wanted to actually have a bit of a roast of an opposition club, and that was Fremantle. This is a club that 2 years ago were, basically unbeaten for the first half of the year, similar to maybe North Melbourne last year. We've gone over to Perth and smashed them in 2015, and then from there they were still a decent team, but they just never had what it took to really to do anything of note in September. And I mean, it's rich coming from us, I guess, because we haven't won a final for 15 years. But at the same time, I think Freo have just overcommitted with Ross Lyon. 2020, he's got a deal too. I mean, there's no other coach in the AFL that has a deal till that time. What have they done in the last 2 years? They've got a bunch of nothing players that are just not performing to any sort of standard. And yet somehow, they can just have this small little, 5 or 6 game streak where they look okay and everyone forgives Ross Lyon. And yet if Richmond has one bad game, people are all over Hardwick. So I think the roast for me is Fremantle. Why the hell did you sign Ross Lyon to 2020? That's pretty...
Yeah, it's a long contract for a coach.
He surely can't last that long continuing the way they are. I mean, they've got no forward line at all. I mean, I don't know.
How good was he going?
Yeah, exactly.
They had no plan for after Pavlich. I mean, McCarthy's not a Pavlich type player. They need someone in the mould of a Hawkins or even a Tom Boyd, that sort of thing. And I mean, to be fair, I guess we don't have that player either. But Fremantle, unfortunately, don't have a midfield either, aside from Fife and maybe Neil. But I think Neil's overrated. Doesn't impact games as much as he could potentially. And who's their backline? Their backline's full of nobodies. So, I don't know. I think Freo's the worst team in the league, and I think they're worse than Brisbane and Carlton, and I don't think they're showing any signs of improvement. So that's my roast.
No, fair enough. And Tigers fan, you've got the toast for tonight. What have you got for us? I'm
going to toast our forward line because, at the start of the year when we lost Griff through concussion, it was all a bit, we don't have a second tall. We're going to struggle. And I just found it incredible how we've all adapted to that, and we've got this incredible forward pressure that's clearly best in the comp at the moment. And, we've overcome the doubt of not having the second tall. And, I know we've put Nank up there a couple of times, but it hasn't really actually serviced as a tall forward. It's just sort of take the mark and, contest the marking contests instead of always getting outmarked. But I thought that I know it's Freo and they don't exactly have the best back line, but I thought it was just incredible to see how everyone worked well together, and it was great team performance in the forward line. It was definitely one of our better games going forward, albeit against a struggling back line. But
Yeah, and like what you said is spot on. We haven't actually had anyone play the second forward role to be a proper second forward. It's just to be a marking option so Jack doesn't get triple teamed. And it served its purpose, to be honest, but, it would be nice to have someone like, Tom Lynch, for example, or Tex Walker who could play that genuine second forward role and actually hit the scoreboard and be dangerous. But like you said, we've adapted and we've done what we can with the plays that we've got, and it's working for us, so we can't ask for much more at the moment.
Yeah.
And EvenExhale, you've got another roast for us. What have you got?
Yeah, I've got a roast back from a couple of weeks ago, casting our minds back to the Geelong game, because I was down there, made the trip down the highway of hell, travelling back 30 years in time as you do down there. But I was walking around, get to the footy, obviously keen for my pre-game feed. My pie, chips and Coke is usually my signature, always has been. And walk around the ground, lining up in the usual, pre-game queues are pretty long. Get to the front, no pies. Go to the next place, no pies again. 3 places, no pies. So I went, stuff this, had to settle for some dim sims, and I wasn't too happy about it. I mean, turn it up Geelong. I've come down here to this boutique stadium that you guys have built. It's meant to be the bee's knees, and you can't even deliver me a pie. I mean, come on. And, just even the pre-game entertainment, they had a marching band thing played. It was just horribly distorted over the speakers. I mean, they were playing the Geelong song and, like pop Pussycat Dolls and whatnot marching around. It's getting horribly distorted. I was like, I was not having a good time. Settling for the dim sims, this horrible marching band played in the background. We ended up going down by 2 goals, and I didn't enjoy my time down there. So that's my roast on the food and the pre-game entertainment, I guess.
That all equals a long drive back home, is what that equals.
Oh yeah, very long trip back up the highway with the old man.
And as I said to you in the PM, they boast about having all these flash lights in there that are worth hundreds of thousands, but they can't serve you a meat pie.
Exactly right.
I feel like I know where the meat pies went, though. I think maybe all the umpires were just having a meat pie whenever Richmond deserved to get a free kick, and then they put the pies down whenever the Cats went for the ball, and someone just slightly touched Dangerfield, free kick. I think maybe that's where the pies went.
Oh,
it definitely wasn't Stevie Motlop because he played the blinder.
Either that or
so
Stevie Motlop had him.
I was at the Collingwood Geelong game, and everyone's getting into Dangerfield for his the umpire's pet, and it's somewhat true actually. I mean, normally Collingwood fans are well off that. Not usually correct on that sort of stuff, but I have to agree with them. Dangerfield does get a lot of free kicks that he doesn't deserve.
Yeah, a lot of them, we won't harp onto it for too long, but a lot of them just throw their arms up when they get touched and the whistle's blown. But we could go on about that all night. We'll push on to the review of the Freo game. So Richmond 25-5, 155, defeated Fremantle 7-9-51 by 104 points, which put us back in the 4th spot. And I suppose the incredible thing about the scoreline is we only kicked 5 behinds. That in itself is an outstanding effort given what we've had to look at for most of this year. And it just goes to show the age-old saying that, bad kicking is bad football, but on the flip side, good kicking is good football, obviously. So the boys did extremely well. The first quarter, though, was a little bit nervy, I must admit. So Freo were definitely on top of us in the first. Their pressure was exceptional. The repeat inside 50s were really concerning. Luckily, they missed a few goals and put some out in the full. Nat Fyfe was tearing us up. No one could get near him, and of course Bennell comes back after however long he's had off and kicks 2 goals. I thought, here we go. The stars were aligning massively against us. It's not going to pan out how we thought it was going to, but as we all saw from the second quarter onwards, it was literally all one-way traffic. So an 8-goal 2-second quarter really paved the way for one of our more clinical performances for a long time. Reaper, what do you think of the game?
Yeah, I echo your sentiments. I mean, for me, it was very nervy first quarter and had a bit of trouble watching it. But then after that, I just thought, look, screw it. It's our chance to really make a statement, and we did. And I think the big thing for me, everyone's looking at their scoreline of 155, but we only had 30 scoring shots. Now, that's a lot compared to the inside 50s we had. I think we had around sort of 50 or thereabouts. But in past games, like, for example, against Carlton back in round 14, we had 29 scoring shots. We kicked 84 score points. Against Hawthorn a few weeks back, we had, I believe it was, 28 scoring shots. So really, we didn't play too differently in terms of our generating opportunities. I think the big thing for us was just actually converting and actually putting that scoreboard pressure on, getting to like 9 goals or 8 goals straight, really put the pressure on them. And then from there, it just kept rolling on. And plus, I think the pressure that Freo were putting on us, we weren't getting shots from on the boundary line. We were getting them from 30 metres out directly in front. That also helps as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Tigersfan, I'll put this one to you. Typically in the games we've seen of us this year, we've gotten to 4 or 5 goals ahead and we've kind of just stalled. Did you expect us to kick on like that, or did you think we were just going to hold them at arm's length and that was going to be it for the game?
I definitely didn't expect us to put it away. I think I tipped around 30 points just because we haven't done it all year, and Dimmer's come out and said, we're not that sort of team. So, yeah, I definitely didn't expect it, and it was definitely a pleasant surprise considering, we dominated teams, Brisbane, Carlton, haven't put them away, and it was good to get the percentage boost because, our percentage isn't exactly looking too flash considering the amount of points and wins we got this year.
Yeah, and the percentage is interesting because I don't think, prior to this game, I don't reckon a lot of people factored it into the equation for the final standings because it just wasn't that great, like you said. But we've now actually put ourselves in a much better position to potentially finish third. And EvenExhale, put to you, if I'd have told you before the game that Jacob Townsend would kick 6 goals, 1, what would you have said?
Oh, I would have said you need to go down to the loony bin, I reckon, because, actually, it's not that surprising. I did see him play down at Frankston a few weeks ago in the seconds, and, he was playing around half forward line. Some of his, he's like, little half volley pickups, he was very lively in the forward pressure and stuff. I mean, he tackles like an absolute maniac. But no, I mean, obviously he's popped up for the game of his life right at the right time because, I mean, a lot of people on the board would have sort of had him in the Dundee list bin. But, no, yeah, and I saw him even when he came off the ground. They swapped him off. I mean, he came off the ground and kicked the old tin bench because he was so angry about being taken off the ground. So, I mean, it just shows how determined he is, I guess, to make a stand for himself, I guess, with trying to cement himself as part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a few weeks or a few months now that he should have been coming in because his VFL form has been quite good.
Yeah.
It is really nice to see good reward for effort because quite often you'll see a player will do well in the VFL, come in and then have a stinker. And they're back down in the VFL. Yeah.
I think that's been Lennon's problem. Like, honestly, like Ben Lennon's had that situation. He's smashed it in the VFL a few times, and then we've brought him in once or twice, and he it's just been poor timing, and then he gets kicked out straight away. So hopefully, if Townsend has a good game against St Kilda, he can get himself a final. But unfortunately, those players on the cusp, though, if they don't perform out of their skin like Townsend did, they're out. Like, that's the way we've been at the moment, or recently anyway.
Yeah, I think it's also because we've got a lot of players in the same position in that sort of boat. We've got Lloyd, we've got we've got Miles, who always comes in and stuffs it up off the back of an incredible VFL performance. So it happens a lot.
And do we think that Caddy and Townsend can play in the same team? I personally think yes, only because Townsend's role can be predominantly up forward because he will crash packs and bring the ball to ground. So that solves that issue, and that allows Caddy to play a bit more midfield time and then can rest forward. So can it work side by side?
I think so, personally, because, Caddy's more of that, as you said, Caddy's can more push up the field, I guess, a bit more. And he allows him for those runs. Caddy goes on those 50-metre runs down the field to get onto the end of the kicks. He looks a bit like a cherry picker, but like Tauno, can provide that sort of that manic pressure to allow ease the pressure off Caddy a bit, get him a bit more of the ball in his hands. I mean, free him up a little bit. I mean, he already does so much hard work off the ball. I mean, imagine with that workload lessened a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The other player I want to mention as well is young Jack Graham, made his debut. A team-high 11 tackles, 13 disposals and a goal. I thought he had a great game. He looked knackered at quarter time, I must admit, and I thought, he's going to blow up pretty quick here.
Yeah.
But as the game went on, he did not look out of place whatsoever. His clean pickups, quick hands, good pass by foot. We could have a steal in our hands here.
Just looked like a footy player, didn't he? Just straight up, ready-made.
I was bullish on him in the draft. I really thought that he would come in early. I think he had those injuries early in the year, but I actually thought he'd potentially be a chance to debut in round one. I think he had a couple of injuries and whatever it might be, but I'm surprised it's taken him this long to get a debut, to be honest, because he's had some pretty good VFL form as well when he's come back. But he looks like a ready-made gun. Not sure if he's going to be an absolute superstar, but he's certainly going to be up there, doing well.
Absolutely. And we'll finish with this one. Tigers fan, Alex Rance kicking that goal. How exceptional was that?
Oh, so it was pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah. He's actually, what I've noticed over the past few weeks is, for a tall defender, he's quick. He's really quick off half back, and he offers more than just the intercept mark, actually.
He does, and I don't know what the actual thought process is with putting him up there, whether it's an alternate if he's getting tagged out of the game or whatever it might be, or if they were doing it simply because I think he's from Perth and it was just more of a fairy tale thing for him to kick a goal over there. I don't know, but it was an interesting move. I didn't mind it.
Yeah,
I feel like Hardwick's shown that he can do different things with Rance. I think there was a game where he put him in the midfield for a little bit. I don't think it actually worked, but
no, that one didn't work.
That one didn't quite work. But I think he's willing to, because of Rance's aerobic capabilities and his just general eliteness in terms of his athleticism. I think he can could potentially play multiple positions, but I think he's best suited in defence, obviously, being a defender. But I think it's a good weapon to have, similar to maybe even a Harry Taylor sort of situation where you can, chuck him up forward for a couple of minutes if we're, needing a big target down there. I think it's a good sort of thing to have up your sleeve.
Yeah, the bloke who did a bath on him a few weeks ago in Geelong, Harry Taylor.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like he's too good defensively to to switch him up forward for extended periods of time, but definitely an option. He could be an option leading forward.
As long as we don't start him out of the goal square next week, it'll be fine.
Well, the improvement of Grimes and Asprey, it gives you that flexibility with how good those two have improved this season, that we can throw Rance up forward. It's not so much a one-man army down there.
No, Asprey more than holds his own now and does an exceptional job week in, week out. So it's probably a good compliment to those guys as well, that they've got that much trust in them to still get the job done without Rance being down there. So it is giving us a bit more flexibility, which is nice. Well, I'll push on to the Chris Yarran saga that kind of reared its head again last week. So he obviously come out and admitted to having a drug problem with ice as well as mental health issues. Deliberate, the poster on our board, made a great thread on it and just posed the question, are we owed an explanation from the club as to what they knew at the point of trading for him? We gave up pick 31 and our future second rounder to obtain the pick used for Yarran. Reaper, do we need an explanation from the club on this?
It's a tough one, because I think we need an explanation in regards to how much did they know. I don't fault the actual method of what they were trying to do. Essentially, what they were trying to do, I believe, is fast track that small forward development. Now, they were also obviously they were looking at Yarran for either that sort of small forward position or that running defender position, and I think that they were going to probably look to trial him in both positions, if he had come on well. But I don't fault the recruiting of him in the sense of the idea behind it. I think potentially we were a little bit desperate after that 2015 elimination final loss, and I think that we just, probably obviously didn't do our due diligence. I don't think we need to be, stringing up and quartering people for it. I think that it's done now. We gave him a chance. He didn't work out. But probably in the future, it's a good lesson to learn, to probably do our diligence a bit better. I reckon we just leave it as it is and just move on, have a finals campaign, try and win a few finals, and leave the past where it is, to be honest.
Yeah, no need to get involved in that really, considering where we are in the season, and it's not that important really to give an explanation about this situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit like crying over spilled milk. I mean, it's done.
Yeah.
Push on. We've got more important things to focus on. I mean, yeah, tried to give you a chance, I guess.
I know. I'd personally like to hear if they knew, just because it's a massive blunder if they did know how bad it was. And someone has to be held accountable for that kind of decision, because you look at giving away pick 31 in a future second rounder, that's some good young talent to come into the side that we now don't have, and we haven't gotten anything out of Yarran. And I just want to say as well that it's absolutely wonderful news that he's getting over the habit and he's on the right track. So there's nothing against Yarran in the slightest. It's top marks to him. It's more just a thing with the club that if they knew all of this, I'm all for trying to help people out and things like that, but if they knew, that's a massive, massive risk for not knowing if you're going to get any reward from it. So, look, hopefully they did do all their right checks and it was just something they didn't know because they weren't legally allowed to know, unless Yarran told them, which he didn't. But yeah, it's obviously all the best to Chris Yarran, and it would be good to see him come back and play a good level of football. And knowing how Richmond work, he'll get drafted by someone else and tear us to shreds when he plays us. That's just an absolute odds-on thing to happen.
That's my problem, actually. See, if I was to have any issue with any of this, it would be the fact that I really don't see how Yarran should be allowed to come back without us getting first priority on that. Because, if he wants to come back, I mean, I'm not even sure if we'd take him, but, it just doesn't seem fair to me that we've given up those picks and then we don't get anything out of him at all, but then he comes back. I mean, I'm not saying it to spite him, but just, should we not get some sort of, restitution for that? Even if it's a low round draft pick or something. I don't know. Is that even possible?
Kind of along those lines, I heard Damien Barrett talking on Triple M today about this issue as well, and he was saying that while it's very hard for the club that's the play's being traded to know about all these issues because they legally can't be told by the doctors and all that kind of stuff, the AFL would have known. And he said, is it fair for the AFL to let that kind of trade go through where they knew that this player had a drug issue that was probably going to not allow them to play football, but yet they've allowed a team to give up draft pick XYZ, knowing all the information? Is there a point where they should potentially step in and say, I don't know how they could do it without breaking rules, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that it can all go through while there is a party that knows about it and they couldn't do anything about it to help us out.
And a little bit of a quick turn it up to Sauce as well, because, I mean, he obviously would have had some idea of what the issues were, and yet he was pushing for pick 12. I mean, he would have, I reckon, I mean, maybe not him personally, but I reckon the Carlton Football Club would have had some idea that, maybe Yarran's time was limited. And so, it's our fault for, maybe making a dud buy, but at the same time, I don't know, that seems a bit dodgy to me, but I'm maybe not from a legal perspective, but
it smells very Carlton, doesn't it?
It does a bit.
I suppose the other big issue out of all this is it was alleged that he was never drug tested while with us because he had mental health issues. Yeah. And I think the AFL need to change the policy. Definitely. Not to catch people out, but more for the players' own health and safety, because mental health issues often does correlate to heavy drug use, and we don't want players to be doing that and harming their bodies. So it would be nice to see the AFL change it just to try and keep everyone in line and healthy above all else. But
in the end, he sorted himself out really well.
Yes, which is the best part of the story, and it is. Yeah. It's great to see him happy and enjoying what he's doing in life now. So that's the most important part out of it.
One thing that I think a lot of people have forgotten as well is that he's, I mean, sorry to rain on the happiness parade, but he is actually officially listed with us still. So again, to come back to the more technical side of things, yeah, it's great that he's had a good situation and he's been able to get through it with that. But I mean, I care about the Richmond Football Club. I don't necessarily, this is going to sound harsh, but I don't necessarily care about Chris Yarran individually. I care about the Richmond Football Club. I want us to get the best possible outcome from this as well. Is there a way we could keep it on the list? Is that even possible? I don't know. Like, what's the process that looks like?
I don't know. Like you said, though, if he's still contracted to us and we're still paying his wage and he says, I want to make a comeback, then surely by default we're first in line because he's still with us. I think it's like a mutual agreement. I think we agreed to let him play in the waffle, but I'm not sure how far it extended to being fully released from his contract or not. But it would be interesting to know because really, if he's fit and healthy and in the right mindset, he'd be a quality addition to have into the team, hence why we wanted to get him in.
Exactly, yeah.
So if he is in that right mind space, and the club was confident that he was past it all, it'd be interesting. It'd be good to get him back in.
Could you imagine his ball use off halfback at the moment? I mean, that's where I feel sometimes we can get, let ourselves down a little bit. Just imagine him carving through the halfback line with his speed and whatnot. I mean, we'd be pushing for the flag. Up there with the Swans, I reckon.
And we don't need the small forwards anymore either, because I mean that was the thing. It was one or the other. We've got Butler, Rioli, Castagna, and those guys now, so we can literally just plonk him on a half back line. He's good to go. And I mean, again, it's a long shot, probably not going to happen. But I'm just saying that if he's officially still listed with us, it could be worth at least having a chat to him and seeing if he would be willing to come back and play for us.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
Hopefully that's a bit of a watch this space, but all the best to Yaz one way or another. We'll push on to the VFL update. So the VFL boys had a really good win as well. They won 22-17, 149, defeated Sandringham 12-7, 79, winning by 70 points. And that puts us into 5th spot on the ladder, and that's now officially secured a final spot, which is an excellent result for the VFL team. The Richmond goal kickers, we had Lloyd with 4, Moore with 2, Short with 2, Lennon with 2, Stengel with 2, Hampson with 2, Bolton with 2, Elton with 2, and all with 1 each, we had Morris, Ellis, Miles and Menadue. And the Richmond listed best players were Lloyd, Short, Moore, Miles, Ellis and Batchelor. Obviously, the big game was from Sammy Lloyd. He had 50 disposals and 4 goals. And Miles had 45 disposals. And amazingly, both might still struggle to get a gig in the side this week.
Yeah, I don't see how you can drop any players out of a 104-point win side. I thought they were all immaculate. But who do you take out?
Well, that's right. I suppose the big positive, though, is there's a lot of players in the VFL performing well at a high level. So at least if there was an injury or there was a slight drop of form, there is people pushing to get into the side, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, I can't remember for years us ever having any real depth. I mean, it's something that we've just never had as Richmond. Look at Delidio when he was playing for us. Our record without him was just horrible. Like, if Delidio went down, it's pretty much what Richmond went down with him. Like, now we've got, Miles racking up 45 possessions, Lloyd racking up 50. I mean, that's pretty good depth to have those sort of players that just can't get a gig inside.
And just last year, I think we finished around the 13th spot. So it's if I'm correct, but it's definitely a big improvement and good to see. And it does show our depth.
It does, and the biggest sign of that is that when players are called up to come into the team, they perform their role straight away. It's exactly like what Hawthorn do and what Geelong do and Collingwood, who've got those existing VFL teams, that players can come in seamlessly and play their role, and you're not missing out on anything. And that's a really good spot to have gotten to finally.
I think with also, I mean, if you look at even the Bulldogs, I mean, my opinions on the Bulldogs are, well, maybe not well known on the Richmond board, but on the Western Bulldogs board, I'm not a massive, they're not a big fan of me over there, put it that way. I don't think the Bulldogs are that great, but I think that they had a great season last season based on their VFL season and also their VFL season from the previous year. A lot of their young players that came through, their VFL team spiked in performance, and it was no coincidence that their AFL team also spiked in performance as well. I think a great sign of our AFL year this year was the VFL season in the last 5 or 6 games last year, because I think we went on a run where we won about 6 or 7 in a row, and we didn't quite make the finals because we had a bad start to the year. But I think that 6 or 7 games in a row really built those young players up to come in. That, Butler in round 1, Castagna, those sort of guys came in and hit the ground running. So I think having a good VFL system in place is incredibly important. And the fact that we've got both teams sort of contending for top 4, it's a great sign for our future, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good sign. And this is obviously exactly why we wanted to push so hard to get our own standalone VFL team so we could do exactly this. So it's obviously paying off now, which is nice. We'll move on to the preview of this week's game against St Kilda. This is the deciding game for us. The equation's pretty simple. We win and we'll finish in the top 4 and play in a qualifying final for the first time since 2001. Personally, I don't care which part of the top 4 we're in, as long as we're in it. If we're to win, the margin obviously will play a part in the final standings in the top 4. But I think for all of us, 4 points is 4 points. The other outcomes that would be good for us to happen is it'd be nice if Essendon and Melbourne both win their games, because they obviously played before us, so that way there's no way St Kilda can make it, which will hopefully deflate them a little bit. But then there's obviously the Nick Riewoldt playing his last game as well, which is a massive factor. And he's an absolute legend of the club, and if not the game. And he's had a pretty amazing career, but we are milestone killers, so hopefully we can do another one this week. Reaper, what are your thoughts on the game?
It's a funny one because of the absolute capitulation of the last time we played them. I remember sitting there when we played them last time, and it was about 86-10 near half time, and I was laughing because I just thought there's no way we're this bad and there's no way they're that good. And I said to myself, look, we'll have a chance to square it up later in the year, being at the MCG. For me, I think a big one, and obviously speaking about matchups and that type of thing, Jack Riewoldt is going to have a big game. I think that when he has a big game against the Saints, we generally win. He often kicks a bag against them, like 6. I think he's kicked even 7 or 8 goals a few times before against them. I think his opponent will probably be Nathan Brown. So with Nathan Brown, he's had a bit of he's had a pretty decent season. I don't know the specific stats on him, but I mean, in terms of that, I think that Riewoldt's got his measure. I think Jack Riewoldt's an All-Australian Coleman medalist. We need him in this game to step up and kick a bag, and that to me, that's where it's won or lost. The small forwards can do their job and do what they need to do, but we need Riewoldt to kick a bag. He kicked 4 goals against Freo, and he wasn't that convincing. We need him to step up.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the game against them last time was really weird. I agree with what you said. There was no way we could ever play that bad again, and they could play that good again. It was just literally one of those days that you just have to write off. But I just want to mention something that Crocodile mentions in his episode the week after our last St Kilda game, and he made a good point that St Kilda's game style does have some similarities to Adelaide, which has proven to trouble us in the past. So even though that game was a bit weird in how it all panned out, I think they still do have the players and the game plan that could trouble us potentially. So we really need to make sure that we are going in a lot harder than what we were last time. Tigers fan, what are your thoughts on the game?
I reckon that they won't be able to hurt us as quickly, considering that when we played them last, it was under the roof that Eddie had. But I think our forward line definitely needs to turn up again, and I agree that Jack Riewoldt needs to have a big game, but sometimes, I mean, we saw it against Hawthorn how everyone sort of, swarmed to make the tackle, and then Josh Caddy ended up kicking 4, but really that was all a result of other the teamwork within the forward line. So I reckon we can do that again like we did against Freo and Hawthorn, and if Jack kicks a bag, bonus,
Fair enough. And
EvenExhale, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, obviously being there last time at Etihad in that ground, watching their ball use was just so fast. And I just said to myself, when we play them again in round 23, I can't see them playing that sort of style again. And obviously, with our boys, I heard that they had a cold virus or something go through the club before the game or something that could have been, putting them off, I guess. But, Alex Rance he's got a point to prove this week, obviously, with what happened last time being destroyed by Nick Riewoldt. But, I mean, he'll obviously maybe go to memory. He's even having a pretty decent season. I think he's kicked, over 30 goals or something. Kicked 3 last week, so he'll be up and about. I mean, if Dimmer decides to put maybe move him away from old Rui being on his last game. But for me, I can see Alex Rance having an absolute blighter because I think when he goes out there with a point to prove, I mean, I hope he's unstoppable as he has been for the most part of the season.
And just quickly, in my opinion, Alex Rance is he's very good lockdown defender, but I prefer to see him on the second forward so he can really rebound, and because we've seen him get beaten 3 times at least this year, dominated throughout a match where he has been on the key forward. So I prefer Asprey or Grimes to go to Riewoldt actually.
Yeah, definitely. When he plays that sort of loose, intercepting, marking, that's when he's at his absolute power. Because he can get beaten one-on-one. It doesn't happen that often. I mean, he's still one of the premier defenders as it is, but he definitely is one of those, intercepting, marking defenders. He's an absolute weapon.
Yeah, with the Saints, I think it comes down to they've got a decent spine, but I think if the Saints to me are a lot like the Bulldogs. If they don't come with manic pressure, they're an average team, and that's not to disrespect them. I'm not saying they're awful, but they're a team that let's have a look at the record since the last time we played them. When they finished smashing us that day at Etihad, we're both 9-6. Now we've got on to go 14-7. They're 11-10 now. So they've proven they're not a consistent team. And all we need to do is, if they come with their manic pressure, we need to just stand up for a quarter and match it. If we can match it, we'll overrun them. But if it's the problem last time is that, we just, whether it was a virus or whether it was just, being tired from being up for a little bit, we didn't come with any pressure. We didn't come with any real effort and intensity, and St Kilda were able to do what they want. And I think in any, if it's sort of like Hardwick says, if you're 5% off and they're 5% on above their normal, there can be crazy results. And I just think that if we have to come with an attitude of, do or die. We have to play as if we're playing for a spot in the finals, not for top 4. And I think if we look at it like that, yeah.
Yeah, they'll definitely. I'm pretty positive the players are going to be out for retribution for what happened last time.
Oh, definitely.
And they will not want to be embarrassed like that again, especially with what's on the line. I mean, it's just the Nick Riewoldt factor for me is quite a huge one. It's going to be a pretty emotional day for both he and Jack and all the St Kilda players. So I think the key to the game is also going to be getting some early scoreboard pressure against them to try and just kill that out a little bit, because if they kick the first 3 or 4 goals and get on a roll, then all hell could break loose. So I reckon we have to try and hit the scoreboard first, and just really try and get on top of them early. Going back to Membry, he kicked 5 against us last time, so we do have to pay some close attention to him. I agree with maybe not having Rance on Riewoldt. But maybe even Vlosten could play on Membry or something. I mean, Vlosten, I don't know if he played last time, but he's been exceptional the last few weeks. So I wouldn't mind seeing. Yeah, he's been very good. And the other player for St Kilda, he could. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing Grimes follow Riewoldt up the ground because Asprey's too valuable. We need him a bit deeper for the intercept marking. Same kind of thing as Rance, but. Yeah,
surely Grimes wants one back at him for that dirty cheap shot he gave him the last time he played, cleaning him up. Memory.
Yeah, wasn't that when he had the big shiner under his eye? Was that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I remember. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's going to be out next week." Cushion. He's tough as.
Yeah, straight back, like a cat, bounded straight back.
What are our thoughts? This is just a random idea that has come up to me, but what are our thoughts of putting? How Prestia did a few run with rolls, sort of to get himself back into form. What if we ran him with Stephen? Would that be something, do you think, that would be open to looking at, do you reckon? Or
I don't reckon Stephen's been that damaging, to be honest. He gets the ball, but he hasn't hurt anyone. I'd like to see Presti go to Seb Ross. He's the one who killed us.
Right.
Yeah, he destroyed us last time, but I think the idea has a lot of merit to have him just follow someone closely, because Prestia, when he did that, was pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a tough one because obviously Prestia, he's a ball winner himself when he's on, but, and he has found some good form, but I think I remember last time he was very average against the Saints, and I think we all were. They all were. But, he was one of the specifically poor players on the night. So maybe if hopefully his confidence hasn't been dented by that playing them.
And do we think the playing at the MCG is an actual factor in the game compared to being played at Etihad?
I think it is, yeah.
Huge, I reckon. We play the MCG. Just I find that narrow Etihad ground, cuts off a bit of our run for us. Like, look at our record over at Subiaco. That's a larger ground like the MCG. I mean, we seem to just play a lot better football on those bigger grounds for whatever reason. Same with Geelong. I mean, we seem to get suffocated on the smaller grounds for whatever reason. I feel like
the suffocation comes from the lack of tools we have, because our game relies on spread, and if we've got if it's a narrow ground, tall players can get more dominance, I think, and I think that's why we struggled at Simmons. That's why if we play Geelong in a qualifying final at the MCG, I think we'll win it, and that's why I think that we don't play well at Etihad, is because we just don't have the tall timber. We need a wide open ground like Subiaco or like the MCG where we can use our spread and really outrun teams, I think. That's my opinion. Definitely. I don't know if it's true. I feel like that could be the reason, potentially.
I can't remember the last time we played St Kilda at the MCG.
I think it was last year. That horrible
It was last
game.
year. Yeah. That absolutely horrible
Really
game.
ugly, low scoring. Yeah.
52 to 39 or something like that, yeah.
Oh, okay, it feels like it's been longer for some reason.
I think the next week, Sydney belted us by about 23 goals. So that goes to show we were probably in the same form in both games, and yet St Kilda could only beat us by 10 points, whereas Sydney went on and belted us by 110 points. So I think we've got them covered, honestly. I don't know. It's a tough one, though. But I just feel like we've got them covered on the MCG.
It's just nervous because the game means something big for us. I know it means something for them as well, but playing for a top 4 spot's massive. Like, that is such a huge advantage to have, and I just feel like every time we have a game that's worth something really good, we tend to stuff it up.
We do a Richmond.
Yeah, that's I thought we'd lose last week. Actually, I didn't think we'd lose. I just had that feeling, and I've got the sort of same feeling this week. But I suppose that's just because of our history, really. It's not actually down to our ability.
We all just mentally prepare ourselves to fall.
Yeah.
Have that safe.
What are the repercussions of losing? I think we'd probably fall to 6th, wouldn't we?
Yeah, 6th.
And very likely that we'd probably play Melbourne, I think, looking at the ladder today, or Essendon, but probably more likely Melbourne. So, assuming that they win, which I don't think I'd like to play Melbourne, to be honest.
No, I'm the same. I had Melbourne in my top 4 at the beginning of the year. I thought that would be the team. There was the big debate about Melbourne and St Kilda. I always thought Melbourne were a class above, and I probably wouldn't want to play them in a final. But then again, at the same time, we should embrace the pressure, because we're going to have to beat some good teams to win a grand final. So maybe it would be good to play Melbourne. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's just hard to really measure.
It is. The top 4, though, would be ideal. Even if we played Adelaide and Adelaide, no one expects us to win that. So, for me, that'd be a free hit. And you just never know what happens in a game of footy when you're playing with that mentality.
Yeah, and also, get straight through to the semis if we lose. So it's definitely a huge advantage.
Yes. Look, I'm just glad that we are going to be playing finals after what happened last year. I think that's a massive tick for Hardwick and the club. Everyone on Big Footy, in the media, everywhere, had us penned in for bottom 4 at the absolute best based on what we dished up last year, and which is probably fair enough. So to come out and do what he's done with the team is exceptional, and for him to even call it in the pre-season that we'll be playing finals this year, that's a ballsy thing to say in a press conference, but he's come through with the goods, so full marks to him and the club, and hopefully we can make a good shake of it.
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure he actually said even during last season when we were getting flogged, I think he was on the couch, maybe it was towards the end of the year, and they were saying what's gone wrong, all that sort of stuff. And he was like, if we're not back in finals next year, I'll be very disappointed. I could be wrong. Maybe it was after the season had finished, but I'm pretty sure he said that. And then we got belted by Sydney a few weeks later, and people were laughing at him. So I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? But I think that I don't know. He's not a genius, but I think that he's a lot smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. Hardwick.
Definitely. And just going back to this week's game for a sec, I've written down possible changes. Are we all in agreement that it's going to be very difficult to make a change in a team that won by 104 points, or was there anyone that you might see come in? The only note I had written down was I wouldn't be shocked if the match committee wanted to see how Hampson went for a game in AFL level before finals, just in case they want to go with 2 ruckmen depending on the lineup. But who do you drop?
Yeah, I would say that there'll probably be one change. It'll just be resting someone who's knackered before the finals. Really, even though there is a week off, it'll be someone like
yeah. You go. Sorry.
It'll be someone like Nank or Grigg or Rioli, but it's definitely not down to our performance last week.
I'd give Castagna a rest because I think he seems to have faded a little bit. I feel like one of those 3, not necessarily for performance, but one of the 3 out of Rioli, Butler, or Castagna probably need a rest. Or just at some point. Now, I know we're going to get that week off with the bye, with the pre-finals, whatever it is, the week off. But I just feel like maybe you could probably afford to give one of those 3, off, and maybe trial out at 2 tall. Maybe give Elton one more game to give himself prove himself or something like that. We don't want it to be too crazy with our changes, but I mean,
we got a top spot on the line here,
But I think, at the end of the day, are we aiming for top 4, or do we want to aim to be a team that can win a premiership? Because there's a difference between those 2 things. And I think that if we're going in just happy as top 4 even, there's no guarantee that we won't go out in straight sets. We want to win. And so I don't know. That's just my view on it. I could be wrong, but I just feel that we should try things within reason to give us options. Because if we're just one-dimensional with our pressure setup, we've seen Adelaide, we've seen St Kilda. If we don't bring the manic pressure, they can figure us out pretty easily. And those are the teams we're going to be, well, maybe not St Kilda, but we're going to be playing the Adelaides and the GWSs and those types in the finals. We're not going to be playing Fremantle. So, I don't know. Tough one.
Yeah, interesting selection this week. All right, before we finish up, we'll get a prediction from everyone. So, Reaper, I'll start with you. What's your prediction and margin for the game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game in the first half, and I think that we will end up pulling away from them late in the game when their emotion runs out, and I think we'll be a clinical win. I think we'll do it by 24 points, and I think my tip is for Townsend to cement his place in the team and kick 3 goals.
I like it. And Tigers fan, what's your prediction?
I've got my prediction down as 27. I just reckon it'll be sort of 2, 3, 4 goals in front most of the game, and just sort of stay that way. Really, we've done that a few times this year. Hopefully, we can do that again.
Yep. And EvenExhale, what's your prediction?
Yeah, look, I see even a little bit more of a cruisier win. I've got us down for 43 points, get it up. But my prediction is good on Oleg Markov making a breakout game, 30 touches and 3 goals to, really crush the poop the party of Roo, even though he's been such a champion for him. And it'll be sad to send him off. He unfortunately didn't get a flag with him, but it's an interesting game, I guess. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I've gone a little bit more conservative. I've got us down for 20 points, but that could just be feeling the effects from last time. I just hope we get ourselves into a winning position early. The last thing we want to do is have to be fighting back to try and win the game late. We want to be in that comfortable position and just get through it unscathed, really. And I think Townsend's going to back it up again. I reckon he's going to have another big game. So hopefully he can cement his spot as well. And a reminder to listeners of the game info. So the game's on Sunday at 3:20pm, which is coincidentally my birthday. So it'd be nice for the Tigers to give me a good birthday present for the big 30th. So that would be a nice present to have.
Yeah,
that'd be all right.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So the game 3:20 on Sunday at the MCG, and it is on Channel 7 from 3pm and Fox Footy from 3 p.m. as well. So it's good that it's on free to air. And the VFL boys are playing Coburg at Punt Road on the Sunday as well at 12 o'clock. So make sure you get across and cheer them on as well, given that they've locked in a final spot too. So Tigers fan, Reaper and EvenExhale, thank you very much for coming onto the show, guys. It was good to have a triple guest list this week, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Yep, appreciate it.
No worries at all. Until next time, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.